Aave rsETH fully restored as final tranche hits, LayerZero Lockbox. Aave founder Stani Kulechov confirmed early on May 26 that rsETH is now fully restored across the protocol, with the final tranche of recovered collateral routed into the LayerZero Lockbox and lending markets back to normal operation. The update closes out the cleanup phase of the KelpDAO incident that froze rsETH markets earlier in the month. Per Cointelegraph's coverage of the announcement, the restoration was completed without any socialized loss to depositors, without an emergency governance proposal, and without any haircut on user balances. As of May 26, 2026, Aave's rsETH markets show normal supply, borrow, and liquidation behavior. Final tranche closes a multi-week cleanup. The KelpDAO drain forced Aave to pause rsETH markets while the underlying collateral was reconciled. Restaked ETH derivatives, like rsETH, carry an extra layer of dependency. The wrapped asset on Aave is only as solvent as the bridge and lockbox that minted on the borrowing chain. When the cross-chain accounting on the KelpDAO side broke, Aave's exposure was effectively orphaned from its underlying ETH. Kulechov's confirmation that the final tranche has now been deposited into the LayerZero Lockbox means the wrapped supply on Aave is now fully backed 1.1 by underlying restaked ETH again. That is the technical condition for re-enabling normal borrow and liquidation logic, since price oracles and liquidation paths assume the wrapped asset is redeemable for the underlying. No socialized loss is the headline. The cleaner story here is what did not happen. Several restaking incidents over the past 18 months have ended with either a partial haircut, a token issuance to plug the hole, or a governance vote to convert the loss into protocol debt. None of that was needed here. Aave depositors who held rsETH positions through the freeze are made whole on the original collateral basis. For users who lend or borrow against stablecoin and ETH-denominated assets on Aave, the practical implication is narrow. rsETH markets that were frozen are usable again, and the liquidation engine will treat existing positions on the same terms as before the pause. Liquid restaking risk is still concentrated at the bridge layer. The episode reinforces a structural point about liquid restaking tokens. The risk surface for an asset like rsETH is not just the underlying validator set or the eigenlayer slashing logic. It is also the cross-chain plumbing that mints and burns the wrapped representation. A clean operational drain on the bridge side can freeze otherwise solvent lending markets for weeks. LayerZero's lockbox model, where the wrapped supply on a destination chain is collateralized 1.1 by tokens held in an escrow contract on the source chain, is the mechanism that allowed the cleanup to be deterministic rather than negotiated. The accounting was either right or wrong, and once the final tranche landed, the wrapped supply matched the locked supply exactly. That property is what let Aave restore markets without putting depositors to a vote. Other lending venues that list LRTs as collateral, including newer money markets that integrate with Babylon's trustless BTC collateral design, will be watching whether this cleanup template generalizes. A bridge-level escrow audit trail is much easier to reconcile than a multi-party socialized loss negotiation. But it only works if the lockbox contract itself is sound. Aave's recent track record on incident response, Aave has handled 3 significant collateral incidents over the past year, each with no end-user loss. That track record matters for institutional desks and treasuries that are increasingly using Aave as the base layer for on-chain credit, a protocol that consistently absorbs collateral layer failures without socializing them is a different counterparty risk profile than one that has needed governance bailouts. For users running stablecoin spending strategies that depend on Aave-sourced yield or borrow lines, the restoration removes the operational overhang that had been quietly capping rsETH-backed activity since the drain was first disclosed.